Hi, everybody. Welcome to Inside Scoop with Sue. And today I am here with Dr. Rebecca Gullan, who currently serves as Professor of Psychology and Psychology Program Coordinator at Gwynedd Mercy University. Dr. Gullan has a passion for understanding how to promote positive identity development in adolescence and emerging adulthood, with a particular focus on mentorship and empowerment. I think mentorship is such an interesting conversation because it came up in the rise of something we should strive for in my lifetime. And it was always like, what does it mean? And do I pick someone or is it organic? So can you tell us a little bit about what took you down this path at all of studying mentorship and what is it?
Well, I started out. My training is as a clinical psychologist. So what I am specialized in is really dealing with problems. Sort of the traditional look at like when things go wrong. And as I was in my training and doing my doctoral thesis, I started thinking like I really like focusing on actually when things go right and how to keep things going right, which I think then helps us prevent things from going wrong. And so I started to get interested in working with kids around identity development. And I particularly really like the adolescent, like starting 12, 13, and then going up all the way through the whole kind of all those teen years, and really supporting the three components of identity development, sort of traditionally defined as developing your sense of self, who you are as a person, your own empowerment, developing your sense of who you are in relation to other people, and then also your place in the world. And so as I was working on this, I was doing a lot of school-based interventions to help kids be active and learn how to engage civically and all sorts of things to really build their sense of identity. And as things evolved, I just started to really recognize the importance of mentorship, especially when I became a professor at Gwynedd Mercy, where I really started to see that these relationships were so important. And I think I've always kind of craved that myself, really having those important relationships to help support you in various phases of your life or throughout your life. So that's really how I ended up at mentorship.
Okay, so is it like, do I pick somebody and say, hey, will you be is it a handshake? Is it organic?
You can definitely pick somebody and go up and ask them. That, I think, if you are that is definitely a strategy that works. And if you're somebody that's comfortable doing that, I would say absolutely. Like, because why would you pick somebody? Because you admire them, you want to learn from them. So who doesn't want to have somebody come up and say, I really admire you and I'd love to learn from you, and can we work together? Can you help support me or tell me how you got there? So people love that, and absolutely. But I also think that, the real components of a good mentoring relationship can come very organically as well, or you can start to build them in really small moments. So the biggest thing for a good mentoring relationship is both people are committed to it. I want to do it and you want to do it. Because if either side isn't committed, like if I really want to be a mentor, but somebody really doesn't want to be mentored, that relationship's not going to work. So commitments is really important. And then having a sense of connection to them and authenticity, like shared values and shared interests. And so I think that that's where you start to encounter mentors or people that might be mentors in things you do, like for kids, clubs, sports, talking to a teacher and spending just a little more time with the teacher, or having a teacher ask a question that helps them think more deeply or shows care for them. So you can definitely come about it in lots of different ways. And we find it in lots of different people. You don't have to be a formal person to be someone's mentor. You don't have to have a job where you're typically a mentor to be a mentor.
I would say in my own family, I have some kids who feel like it's sucking up, to like spend extra time with the teacher or seek out somebody who may not readily be in your sphere. So why is it so beneficial for a teenager? And is there a way in that story to sell it to our kids?
I think it is, first of all, let's say, why is it so beneficial? Because this is the time where they're starting to write their own story, to really Your parents are so influential, and parents are always going to be influential in most of our lives. So it's not that parents become even less important, but more that their worlds get bigger. And when your world gets bigger, that's where it's important to have different people to help you navigate that world. And so that's the importance, especially in your teen years. So everything's changing. I mean, there is no time in life where things don't change more than between like the ages of 12 and 25, and you could narrow it down in there. So much is changing, and you're in so many different places, and different people can provide different things. The idea of sucking up, I appreciate that point, because I think that it can feel sort of inorganic or unrealistic. And what I would say is, it doesn't have to be artificial feeling. It can be something as much as just talking about one simple thing with somebody, talking to a teacher in high school about, hey, I'm thinking about these different colleges. What do you think about these colleges? So it can be a natural question or conversation, or you're in a club and you're just there for the club meetings, and the teacher is there. And I'm using teachers as examples, but reaching out to anybody can be just you happen to organically be with them. So I think to sell it to teenagers is in part to make sure that they don't think that it has to be some big thing. It doesn't have to be a big dramatic experience and you're coming to them artificially. It can really come organically. And that's the best kind of mentorship, something where you just naturally, you might artificially be creating some interactions with them, or, sort of making sure, or having a first sentence that you would say, just like making a friend, but it doesn't have to feel fake. And if you don't have that connection, maybe that's not a mentor for you.
Have you ever been on the side of being asked or reaching out to somebody? And can you give us language that you feel like, made it less awkward because you thought about it in advance?
So asking someone to be a mentor myself?
Yeah, or having someone come to you in a way that you felt really was well done.
Really was. Yeah. Well, I would say one of the things, I am very open to mentorship. Obviously, I care so much about it. It matters a lot. So I think simply asking a question, I think that's one of the biggest ways I have found that people might approach me. And maybe they're not looking for mentorship, but usually the relationships build from that, is they simply ask me a question like, hey, can you, like, what is your degree in, or what do you think about this field? Or I want to talk more about that thing you talked about in class. Or maybe somebody connects somebody with me. They say, hey, I know this person that is in psychology, and she, I met her at the grocery store, and here, you should connect with her. And then there's sort of like a connection made by somebody else, but I show that I'm open to them and I am receptive to it. And then they're simply asking me about something about myself, honestly, about myself or my experience, or giving advice. And again, that's just so appealing to be approached like that.
Yeah, the first thing is flattered, right? Like, it's not like, I mean, I wouldn't go up to somebody and say, would you be my mentor? But like,
Right.
going up to them and asking them questions is a great way to just start a relationship.
Absolutely. And the other thing, the word "be my mentor," you can also, a phrase like, can I get your mentorship on something?
Oh,
That's
that's
something,
great.
as I've gotten older, I've started to actually, because I really have actively thought, I really do want their mentorship on that, right? I want to ask my dean, like, what's your mentorship and how to deal with this, And so just to say, can I get your mentorship? Can I get your input? And that's just about one thing, but you're using that term to start to build that relationship.
And then, once you're brave enough, I mean, for some people, it's not bravery, they just do it. But for the person who maybe is being brave, the next thing is like, what do you get in return for that, right? Like, in how many ways does that play out potentially to help you?
Yeah. So you want to be able to know that that person is actually a helpful mentor, somebody that's good for you and that fits for you. So I think it's important to approach them, and then also be willing to say, this does seem to work, or there's something I can get from this person, or this is a meaningful relationship. Or to say, I don't, I think that question was good, or that I work with this person, but they're not really the the right link for me. So it's a it's a two-sided relationship.
So two-sided, like one side is like like I think it's always flattering to be asked my opinion on something. So how do we convince a teenager that it's two-sided and the bulk of the benefit is theirs?
Oh, good question. Well, I think one of the things is they do need to know that that person it does actually help in approaching to say, believe me, they'll want to hear from you. You know, they'll appreciate this because that helps get rid of some of the nerves, right? You're not annoying them. You're not looking stupid. They're going to appreciate it no matter what. And for them, you can talk about, what do you get from a mentor? You know, you get some sort of support. If it's somebody outside of your family or really separate from your parents or your insular world, then it's another objective perspective, somebody who's had different experiences, so you can learn about their experiences and get their comments, their thoughts. And you know, a good mentor doesn't just support you, although that's a very important thing, but you want to get a mentor to be able to give you a perspective on yourself that helps you become a better self. Now, I don't know how appealing that always is. If I tell my kid, hey, you're going to be this will make you better, their first response would probably be like, I'm not bad. What's wrong with me to begin with? But it's like, but what you can get from that is also, they're going to say, hey, did you think about this? Or also getting you connected to resources. I mean, I can't emphasize enough how much that just connection. If you tell someone, I always tell my students, tell everybody, no matter where you are, what you're interested in, your own little elevator. Just sit, if you're sitting at a bar, just be like, hey, I really like to work with older adults, or I really am interested in whatever. And the connections you can make in those moments can lead to so much. So they can really benefit in a really concrete way.
And also, you're going to be surprised how many times you're asked to give somebody as a reference.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And references, that's the thing. People want to know who you are, and you want to feel comfortable asking them for a reference, but you also want them to be able to really speak to who you are, to really be able to talk about you, not in a generic sense, like, oh, this student gets A's, they're a nice person, I'm going to write a letter and say, yes, accept them to this college. But that's different from saying, I've had an experience with this student where they've really shown an interest in growing as a leader, or where they've really shown compassion for other people, or whatever the skills are. And that has such impact.
Okay. So this is all great. My kid might not really be good at we'll use a generic word, feedback, but it might be perceived as criticism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that, I think I'm living in this world right now and thinking, how do you give feedback? I think one of the things that's important to know is you don't have to be open, first of all, to sort of have a intellectual, a humility about yourself to say, like, I just want to be open to hearing things. I may never agree with what they say, but just try to hear what they say, because you never know, there might be a nugget in there. You don't have to fully accept what anybody says. You don't have to talk to that teacher and then whatever they say, that's the thing you're going to choose. It's more just about having a little bit more information and thinking about it and accepting or not accepting it. But just sort of saying, you just have to just hear it. It doesn't hurt to hear it. There's nothing negative about hearing something, and you may not accept any of it because it's possible that you don't agree. And then the other thing is that you may hear something in a comfortable way where it's like, a mentor ideally is going to give you encouragement, but they're also going to see where could I give them a little nudge, and a good mentor does not berate you. They give you a little nudge. They find the places to help you out. But you certainly, we're all people. Your mentor is not maybe they're not going to have the best advice. You don't need to look at them as an authority.
Okay. So I'm at that moment in life, I'm kind of pulling away from my parents, and there may be a few eye rolls when they give me advice about things that I don't want to hear from them. Mm-hmm. So the role of a mentor could really be a third party outside who I don't have that relationship with as a growing adolescent.
Mhm.
But where do I start? And is that like a middle school thing, or do you need to be older and be like a high schooler?
I would say start practicing in middle school. The biggest advice I think I would, as a parent of a middle schooler myself, is just start to raise your hand. Like if you're shy, start to raise your hand a little bit, just to start to learn, practice connecting with people. Join a club that's a smaller club that you'll get to know the teacher in it or the other students or something. Like do little practice steps. And I think it's important for students in middle school to practice connecting with people. We do it all the time with peers. We talk about making friends and how to reach out to friends, but it's also important to say, like, what do you I ask your kids in middle school, what teachers do you like? What what do you think about your coach, or what do you like about your coach? What are the things that you're finding in them? And you sort of like highlight for them that this is a person in your life that isn't just an external authority figure or an organizational person, that just giving them a little bit of information at that point that there are adults, and it doesn't have to be adults, can be an older sibling, that are there. So that's a start in middle school. And I think in high school, if you want to avoid that sucking up that you were talking about, that feeling like this is inauthentic, if you've started to practice those things earlier, you're going to feel more natural in high school connecting with people. So I would say it's never too late to find a mentor. And I think the search for college is a perfect time, or a search for a job, or what you want to do in life. It's the perfect time to reach out to people in an authentic way. But it should start early in practicing just seeing adults as others, as a resource outside of your family. And it's like your parents we have so much tied up with them, right? And they will have this sort of outside person to connect with, and it's so meaningful and powerful. And just telling them that first.
One of the things that strikes me in the conversation is how easy it is for us to look at other people and think it's so natural for them, which means that I'm not good at it because it's not natural for me. And
Mhm.
you're suggesting that everyone can learn this. Just some of our kids might need us to nudge them a little and help them a little.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important thing because, again, I think we worry a lot. We focus a lot on our children's interpersonal social things and then academically, how well they do academically. But we kind of neglect those other relationships. Or whether there's opportunities with those other relationships to build them.
Okay, so I get off this call and I say to my kid, I just listened to this really smart woman and I think it would be great for you to have a mentor. And they are like, yeah, I don't even know what a mentor is. No, thank you. Right. So how can we like reduce it to something that we can say to a teenager? Let's start with a teenager and reduce it to something that creates action there for them instead of just like, that's not me. I'm not like that.
Yeah, well, I think the term would probably be the first thing to get rid of, right? Excuse me. You say a mentor, and it sounds like one person that is going to be everything to you, and you're going to ask everything of. So I think instead of even saying, I think you should find a mentor, it might be something like, I really think I hear what you're thinking about, what you want to do in terms of your major in college, or where you might want to apply, or you want to live far away or close. And I don't even know if I think that's a really important thing to think about. And who are some people that you think might give you some good input on that? And then maybe you say, what about this person or that person? But instead of saying I think you should find a mentor, instead say, I think it would be so helpful to get some input, for you to get some info from other people without me being in it, and in some ways maybe giving them freedom from you. Like you don't need, I don't need to always, you don't have to take my advice all the time.
Yeah, I like that, except that in my house, I didn't have to give freedom. They took it.
Yes, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, guys, you can have freedom from me. They're like,
like, thanks. We've had it for years. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also putting it the way you just framed it means that you don't have to have success with each of those relationships. Like one of them may turn out where you're like, I thought this was going to be really helpful and it just isn't, as opposed to like making something formal. Can we sign on the
Yes.
dotted line?
Like you don't, if your child is going to get married someday, you don't say, go find a partner and get married. You say like, hey, what type of people do you like? They start dating, you feel people out. It's the same thing. It's a relationship.
What are the common places? Like, I assume teachers.
Teachers are common. Coaches are really important. I also think something that is like parents' friends, or family friends, an aunt or an uncle, or somebody that sort of has an experience that you may organically meet up with them, or there may be like sort of a connection made there. But brainstorming who in our lives or who do we know that maybe could give a little bit of thought here. And so it can be something, all sorts of places in terms of who or what you might connect with. But I think the first thing you want to think about is looking at their interests, right? So if their interest is theater, they're going to want to do theater. But who's in theater? What teachers are involved in theater? But also thinking about size, because sometimes something's too big. A team is so big, or a play is so big. So you want to think about what size are they comfortable with. And my daughter has a birthday club at school. They have a birthday club in their middle school where they go and wish people a happy birthday and give them candy. And it's like, I feel like that's the perfect thing, because it's like you're going to connect with some other students, but there's going to be a teacher involved, and you're going to get to do something, and it's low stakes, and it's kind of a fun little thing to do. And it's just a way to get involved and connect.
I don't know. Are you familiar with Bruce Feiler's book, The Council of Dads?
No, I am not. No.
Okay, so I'll just tell you very quickly. I think it's so interesting. It was prompted by a cancer diagnosis and not being sure that he would be there for his kids as they grew older. And he recruited his friends to have different roles in his kids' lives. Anyway, so I think somewhere in here is a story of maybe creating that for your kids if they're not ready to do it on their own.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the best things we can do is, and again, I kept, even in my conversation, keep falling back to this, like clubs or sports or teachers, because that is natural. But the truth is that some of the best mentoring relationships or mentoring experiences we have are when somebody says, I know somebody that could talk to you about that. And it could be one conversation, a mentorship moment, or it could be a spark to something even more. But parents can be a huge, huge asset in identifying those people, not just pushing the kid out, but making those connections.
So Ivani asked, can you repeat the book name? And I think Jessica is in the back end. We have an interview with Bruce Feiler, and it's the book is called The Council of Dads. So maybe we can even put the link to the interview there. It was turned into a TV show, but the book is great. I would awesome. Go to the book. Okay. Any parting words for us?
Just that I really appreciate being able to talk to you and talk to everybody about this. I think this is something that, like you said, it's a word that's been around forever. Mentorship, have a mentor, all of this. But I think it does feel big and scary to a lot of us. And a lot of us say, that's not me. I'm not that person. And I just want to say, you can break it down. There are moments, and it's such a valuable thing. So I would just say, encourage your kids to start to see people as humans that they can connect with. And that will be really helpful in everything they do in terms of concrete success, but also just developing a sense of who they are as a person. So
it's such a helpful conversation, and one that I don't think, before talking to you, I would have considered having with my kids. So Dr. Rebecca Gullan, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.